Hello, colleagues. I have a privilege today to talk to you about a process that we have committed in this region to undertake around reviewing our model. And this is being led and guided by the governance group at the regional level. But before I say any more about that, I think it's an important space for me to just appreciate the great work that each one of you are doing. And I'm talking to you colleagues in Zimbabwe, in Zambia, in Malawi, in Mozambique, and I also want to talk to our colleagues in Oxfam, South Africa. There's brilliant work going on in the region. I do understand the kind of challenges that we do have to be able to do good work. I also understand the limitations of resources that we have. But amidst all these things, all of you are doing such a brilliant job, and let me say thank you so much on behalf of the organization. We are in a space where we need to be looking at doing things differently. And I think for us to understand why this is important, maybe it's good to share a little bit about where we are coming from. So we are a much bigger organization. It's a much older organization that started in the 40s. We have done so much over the decades, and the beginning of Oxfam was a very small organization. And so over the period, we went into an expansion plan that got us to be present in more countries. It also got us to start setting up management structures at different levels. So we got regional offices and sub-regional offices. That was quite a period of expansion that we went through. And so there was a point where we had to learn some lessons in terms of whether this particular setup is working well or is not working well. And so processes of refining the way we work as Oxfam started some time back. And I think it's important for us to remember that that kind of shift was also driven by the context in where we live as an international organization. And so even as we live today, we do have a context that is changing. We do have the sector that is being affected by a number of factors. For example, the way donors want to position themselves and how they want to engage with us. We do have a lot of governance issues that are shifting. And as an organization, in terms of the way we do programming, we also got to be shifting. So at this stage, when we are talking about making some changes or reviewing the way we set ourselves up to be able to deliver the program, we need to understand that we have made a bigger commitment to our 2020 vision. So our 2020 vision is that we are going to be a more influential organization, and we are going to be more efficient in the way we do things and achieve a larger impact. That is something we hold on to. At a regional level, we are a much smaller region, and so we are also seriously looking at how are we going to be more efficient, get value for money for the investment that we put in the region. And so this has been a commitment that the RGG, our regional governance group, has made, that we need to look at the way we set ourselves up just to improve the impact of what we do and be able to demonstrate the value for money. At the moment, we are at a stage where we are looking at reviewing aspects of our operating model in this particular region. And when we are talking about reviewing aspects of our operating model, I just want to emphasize again that we are a much smaller region. And so we have set ourselves in a certain way. For decades, we operate in a certain way. And we needed to make choices that are going to help us to be able to achieve a larger impact than what we have. So all of you are aware of the investment that we put in this region. And as a smaller region, the questions that the RGG were asking were actually whether, with the investment that we have, we could be able to make a larger impact in this region. So we started thinking about this about 2 years ago and looking at how this could be done better. But as we were in the process of doing that, again, we know the context is shifting. So there are a lot of shifts that are happening among donors, for example, where we get our money. There are a lot of shifts among the governance institutions and the way they want to operate. And internally, let me acknowledge that there are also shifts. So for example, on the resources side, we have seen over the past 2 years that we now have less resources than we used to have before. So it's a very important time to just look again on how can we do business, achieve larger impact, but still within the constraints that we are experiencing at the moment. In this particular region, actually, our starting point was to be very clear about what we want to achieve. And so there were a few things that we actually said we want to achieve. And those are the things around the fact that we want a larger impact in what we are going to do. We want to be able to simplify our processes so that it doesn't cost as much to do. But thirdly, we also want to make sure that whatever we set up does not create a management burden. So that was very important for us. And then in terms of programmatic approaches, we wanted to make sure that in terms of having a larger impact, we are looking beyond the presence where we are. So at the moment, we are present in 4 countries, but is there a way a region like ourselves could be able to impact a larger space than just the region, the countries where we are in the region at the moment? So that was a very important consideration. Now, in terms of what options we do have, the regional governance group, through its task team, had to do a lot of discussion around what options do we have. And I think there are certain options that we deliberately decided that we wouldn't want to pursue those as a way of reviewing our model. So some of those are the fact that there was an option for us to shut down one of the countries and be more efficient financially. But we do not think, as a smaller region, shutting up one country so that we remain with 3 is effective enough. Especially if we want to have a larger impact in the region, that does not help at all. So we decided that's not going to be an option. The second thing that we also decided is that we would not shut down what we call a regional platform in our context. We would not shut down that bit because just shutting down that bit as part of reviewing the model effectively means that we are abolishing the region. And so we wouldn't want Oxfam to abolish a region like Southern Africa, because we do believe that there are a lot of achievements that we are capable of attaining in this region by working at a regional level. So we do have SADC that is doing a lot of things. We have other agencies that are doing a lot of things. There's a lot of integration that governments are talking about at a regional level. And we need to be in that space as Oxfam to be able to influence what governments agree. So that definitely is not an option. So I think from there, that's when we need to be looking at, okay, so what options do we have? If those 2 are not options we want to pursue, what options do we have? And that's the job that colleagues we do have at the moment. We are at a stage where we need to do a feasibility study on some of the propositions that we have. And we have hired consultants. Their name are Q Partnership, and they are based in Zimbabwe. These particular consultants are well-known consultants, and for us to be able to get them, we had to use the global team to help us assess them, and we subjected them to a whole process of assessing whether they are capable of doing this job. And the teams that were doing assessment were satisfied that this particular organization or company are actually capable of doing what we want. They do have a lot of experience in actually managing processes of reviewing change models, and they do have a lot of experience working in Africa as well as beyond Africa, but they are also very familiar. They have done a lot of work with the international NGO sector, which to us is very important because we would want them to understand the space where we operate, the challenges that we have, so that in whatever they are assessing, they have that important context behind them. Another very important aspect for us in the selection of the consultants is that they are based in this region. That means they do have some knowledge of this region, and it's very important for them to understand that and make sure that in whatever they will be assessing and proposing, they can actually connect the context very well to where we operate. And so at the moment, what we want the consultants to be doing is actually to assess some of the propositions that are on the table. We already talked about the fact that our ambition is greater, and we would want to make sure we have a larger impact than just the 4 countries where we are. How can we set up a model that is going to be efficient? It's not going to create a burden for management, and it's also going to be something that achieves a larger impact. It requires quite a bunch of propositions. So we do have a few things on the table, But colleagues, what I want is to be able to engage everybody in this region so that we can generate more propositions. We can actually make better combinations of those propositions to be able to achieve the vision that we have. So we're at a stage where the consultants will begin to move into the countries, and you will all be given the timelines when they'll be able to come around. They have set out an approach which they are going to use. And so all of us, our expectation is that we will be able to engage with them in different spaces and be able to contribute to the process of the feasibility study. Some of you, particularly those who are based in Malawi, you must have also seen that we have a project manager who has been taken on board. The reason why we brought a project manager is because we noticed that a lot of us don't have time to manage the nitty-gritties of this process. So we just needed another hand to help us do that. So James is here to help us manage the processes, and it's my plea that all of us are going to engage with him and coordinate with him and communicate what you need to be able to engage with the process that's coming. The RGG has some high expectations from all of us. This particular exercise requires creativity. It requires us to be able to think out of the box, to be able to look at what options could work. And so the expectation is that all of us will wear those kinds of hats. I'm aware that some of us are gifted in a very special way. So in terms of creativity, we are very good with that. I'm also aware that a number of us are connected with peers and friends in other agencies where such processes are going on or have been going on for some time. And bringing all that together on the table to try and make the best for us in our review process is going to be really helpful. We need your ideas, we need your engagement, so that whatever comes out of this exercise the consultants are doing for us is going to be something that's going to work well for us. These kinds of reviews are happening at different levels. So within Oxfam, from the global level to the local level, there are reviews going on. And one such places where reviews are happening are in the headquarters of our affiliates. So you can be assured that it's not only about us. There's plenty of solidarity from the organization in terms of the reviews that are going on. So you will get the support that we need to be able to take this forward. But at the same time, I also want us to commit ourselves to the fact that we want to do this thing very well. Let me point out that every time there is a review, there's likely to be a change that comes with that, and it's going to affect people in very different ways. We are very mindful about that, we are very conscious about that, and our commitment is that we'll try to do our best so that we reduce the negative impacts of anything that changes after the review. And in the process, we would want you to work with us. And that's a very important space where we want to hear your expectations, we want to hear your fears. But let me emphasize that that point is coming, but we are in a stage now where we just have to be creative. So sometimes it's better when you put your fears away, your worries away for a time, and just focus on the creativity so that we can get the best out of the review of the model that we have decided to embark on.